Welcome back to another episode of Pill Out Garage. Today we're going to show you how to change your spark plugs on a CBR500R. This video is just going to be about doing the spark plugs. If you want to see the video on how we remove the fairings, I'll leave a link for that one below. So once you remove the fairings off of the side, you've got one 10mm bolt at the back, and you've got two 8mm bolts at the front. We've disconnected the plug for the fuel pump, which is down here. And then there's two little tabs underneath the tank that you can pull apart, which lets you extend the lines. And then I've just put a zip tie around the frame on this side, just to hold the tank up here so that it doesn't fall off while we're working on it. The reason I don't want to remove the lines is because then I'd obviously have to block them off to stop fuel going everywhere, and this is just an easier option. So now that our tank is out of the way, there is one 10mm bolt at the front of this plastic tray that we need to undo. And then we just have a 5mm Allen key on this side that I'm going to undo so that I can access some plugs. So these plugs will slide off of the plastic tray with a little bit of negotiation. Alright, now the next thing that's going to stop this coming out is the clutch cable and throttle cables. So I've removed two of them already. There's a little plastic tab here, and then there's also what looks like a little spot for a bolt to go through on this side that stops it. So what you do is you lift them up and use a flathead screwdriver, and then you can just push them off like that. And then now that whole side will come out. And then we've got a relay here. So this has a little rubber clip here. So you lift this up, and then this wiring will come out with it. You can simply wiggle these two apart, and that comes off. Push the wiring back through so that it's out of the way. The next thing we have to do is undo the pair system, which is part of the emissions control. There's a couple ways that you could go about this. You could undo this bolt down here, and then the whole system would push out. My concern is though that looks like it's going to be very difficult to try and get back in. So I am instead going to try and undo the hose on this end, which you might be able to see down there. This hose, I'm going to undo this clip, pull the hose off, and then this whole system should be able to move back out of the way, and then we'll just fold that over and put it under the tank like we've done with the tank, just push it all back. So long nose pliers would be the tool of choice. Mine have gone walkabout. So instead, once you've removed that hose, you can pull the spark plug wires out. They look like this. And then it is very tight in here, but now you can see the spark plugs. Right down there. Now on the other videos they do say to unplug the ECU, remove the coils, unplug all the wiring, which you can do, and it's probably the right way to do it. However, this is definitely the easier and faster way to do it. People are always also using like ridiculous flexible joints and stuff. Like it's literally a straight line. Like, I swear that, anyway, each to their own. To get the spark plugs out, you need a 16mm socket. Make sure it's a long socket or a spark plug socket. You can actually get specific spark plug sockets. You will need an extension that looks something like that, so make sure you do have long extensions, and a universal joint at the end will help, just so that you're not smacking into everything. Put that all together, and then you're going to gently slide that all the way down into there, and just turn it until you feel it grab a spark plug like that. Now you can see what would happen if I didn't have this. I'm going to smack into everything, so having a universal joint does help. And then these have got no anti-seize on them at all. Okay.
Is that bad?
Something will tell you that it is. I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself a hack, but I don't use it, but I generally don't change things after their due date either. Not pointing fingers or anything, just saying. All right. Now, Now if you have a spark plug socket, they've got a rubber boot on the inside of them that will catch the spark plug. I don't have one on the 16mm size, so instead someone has stolen the other thing that I need. Oh no. So instead, I have a magnet on a stick. So that's going to go down here. And that is the spark plug. I talked about this in a previous video when I did the V-Star spark plugs, but you can see the color of this. It's got that light brown tinge, which means that it is running pretty much perfectly. If it's black, you're running rich. If it's white, you're running lean. And if it's gold, you're on the money, which is what that is. These are a little bit dirty. I'd say that they've probably gone a little bit past their due date of being changed, but that's all right. And before putting the new spark plugs in, it's always good to double check them, make sure that they're the same thread length, the same size, same part number, all of those things. You can see, might be very hard to get on camera, but you can see the electrode, which is that little bit there, has worn down a lot more on the old ones than the new ones. And someone has gone and put a fucking quad lock up in my grill. Right.
Good thing you got a universal adapter.
I know. All these universal problems that I might have. Same thing for the other spark plug. Drop this down. Try to avoid your friend's quad lock that they've put right in your way. Turn that until it's on the spark plug. These are very tight. Some spark plugs have a little cover on the thread here when you go to use them. That's actually designed so that they can be used in a car, because some cars do share spark plugs with bikes. So make sure you undo that little cap. You want to see exposed thread on the end of them or they're not right. Okay. Spark plug sockets come in handy for this situation where they've got rubber on them so that you don't have to lower them down like this. Now, you can do this a few ways on this bike. It's a little bit challenging. We're going to lower this down and then we're going to turn the magnet until the spark plug starts to catch a thread. And we're going to try that again. I've been lucky before, I might not be lucky this time. We'll see. Perfect. Okay, spark plug has just caught a thread using the magnet, so I can get that off, and then what I'll do is I'll lower this socket down gently, and then I will slowly turn the spark plug by hand until I can feel that it's going in. You definitely do not want to cross thread a spark plug because it's an engine out job to fix. Take it out to double check that everything's going straight, which it is. Be very gentle when putting spark plugs in because they are somewhat delicate. They can be deceptive, like this one feels like it's getting tight, but I think that's actually just the dirty threads on it. So, when tightening up a spark plug, there is a correct torque. I live in the land of sending things, so we're going to use my hand as a torque gauge. But anyone who's done a spark plug before will know there is a feeling when the crush washer on the spark plug starts to crush. You can feel it go tight and then a little bit looser and then tight again. That's it. Once you get that second sort of tight feeling when you're doing them up, stop there, because if you go further than that, you can either snap the spark plug or strip the thread. Both of those things are not things you want to happen. So you'll feel these start to get tight. Always hold your ratchet at the top end. If you're holding it back here, one, you can't feel as much, and two, you have a lot more leverage, which means that you are more likely to snap things. You'll do it here, you'll feel it start to get tight, and then you just go a little bit further, and that's it. And now you have changed one spark plug. Repeat the process and then we'll start putting things back together. I'm just going to clean these spark plug boots before we put them back on, just to sort of help prevent dirt and stuff getting down here, as well as water, because the water will not have anywhere to go. Awesome. Go in there for later. Now, you want to get these underneath this rail. Do not go over the rail. And then it's very tight in here, but you want to push it down until you hear and feel the click. And likewise on this one. There's a lot in the way here, and there is no room. Click, click. There we go. All right. Now we're cooking with fire, everybody. Now that pipe that we took off earlier, that unfortunately needs to go back on. Be prepared to hurt yourself a little bit doing that. It's very tight. And there may be a few choice words used, but that is the fun of working on things yourself. Alright, now all we want to do is get oh my goodness. Again, long nose pliers are the correct tools here, but mine are missing. So I want to get that. That's actually relatively easy. So if you look in there, that's how that should look. You've got your little spring clamp holding the hose down. Both spark plug boots are in their correct place. Now there is a plug, which is this one here. That needs to be pushed back through the hole on this side. That goes to our relay. Put that through, and then we need to negotiate these cables back on. So we started with there we go. So those are our accelerator cables. And make sure that you stack those correctly. You don't want to twist those, it could cause you an issue. And then we have our clutch cable, which is going to need just a little bit of encouragement from our screwdriver. You shouldn't need to be too rough with this. There you go. And now that cable being next to the throttle cables will keep them in place. Just push it a little bit so that it stays there, like so. Plug our relay back in, and then we can start the reassembly process. Push all that down. Okay. There's a little tiny tab inside the relay, and there's a little clip on the plug. So basically the open end of this needs to go on the tab side of this plug. And we should hear a little click. Yep. Push all this back through, Push this over the tab. And that's done. Put our 10mm bolt back in there. One cool thing about these bolts is they've all got this little lip on them, which is designed so that when you put stuff back in, it forces all of the plastics into alignment. So you don't really have to guess too much when you're putting this stuff back together, which is pretty cool. Thank you, Honda. How easy that was. Like, actually not that hard of a job. Alright guys. Now, we'll put the tank back on. I'll show you that. And then we'll call this job done. So there's a clip just here, a little plug. That goes to this wiring. That is for the fuel pump. So I'm gonna sit this just here. One good thing about wiring, once it's a couple of years old, is generally it'll sort of bend and twist and want to sit in the same place that it was originally. So it's pretty easy to figure out. Now I'll show you these tabs on the underside of the tank. Yeah, if you go under there. So we're gonna lift the tank pretty much back into the place that it was. And then these lines are gonna go over these clips, like that. And then the tabs can be bent up by hand to hold the lines. There's the same thing on the other side. Bend that up so that it can't come out again. And then tanks are really easy to put on these. So I've got a cloth just sitting here to keep this in place for now. So there's a bolt that goes straight through there. So I'll grab that. Okay. Now, this is just going to go straight through those rubbers. And then it's going to push all the way through to the other side. There's no washers on this, there's just a nut and a bolt. Which goes like that. Now at this point we're going to start the bike and just make sure that everything we did is working properly so that we don't put the whole thing back together and then find out that we've missed a wire or a plug or something silly. If everything's working well and you don't have any issues, call it done. If you want to put the fairings back on, it is the reverse of the video that you would have seen by now.
I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne.